Well, hello, everybody, and thank you for joining our webinar today. My name is Barb Howe, and I am the Business Development Specialist here at the Colorado Department of Agriculture. And we are really excited. Today's webinar is talking about Colorado's amazing produce industry. We grow so many amazing things in our state, and we have experts here that are going to tell us all about it. We have Marilyn Drake. She is the executive director of the Colorado Fruit and Vegetable Growers Association. I shortened that to CFVGA. It is a mouthful. Um, Marilyn has served as the executive director to the Colorado Fruit and Vegetable Growers Association on a contract basis since 2015 in August. Her work in management of the association includes membership and sponsorship, conference planning, writing news releases, responding to media inquiries, and Colorado produce promotion through social and traditional media channels. She also works on grant implementation, supports the CFVGA board, and does a lot of administrative work, I imagine. She has worked with and for agricultural associations for over 3 decades. She has a bachelor's degree in print journalism with an emphasis in marketing and a minor in Spanish. And she grew up on a family farm and continues to be involved in that operation. She is a published author, including 2 historical fiction titles. Well, Marilyn, we are super excited to have you. Just a reminder to everybody when we get started with Marilyn's presentation, just mute your microphones. This eliminates the background noise and gives them the opportunity to be able to speak and maybe not get any echoes. We want questions. We welcome them. Feel free to raise your hand or type them in the chat and we'll get them addressed. And we will ask for questions after each speaker. So we'll start with Marilyn, and then we're going to hear, of course, from Chuck. We've got Joe Petrocco, who will be joining us in a little while. So if after the webinar you have a question or would like to connect with any of these speakers, you have their emails, but you can also email me here at the state, barb.howe@state.co.us. With that, I will turn it over to the experts. Marilyn, go for it.
All right. Thank you so much, Barb, and we really appreciate the opportunity. I am going to share my screen. Hopefully this works out the way it's supposed to, right?
That looks
So
perfect.
yes, Marilyn Bay is my name, and I have had the privilege of serving as the executive director of the Colorado Fruit and Vegetable Growers Association since August of 2015. So coming up on 9 years, hard to believe sometimes. It's been a lot of great fun. So I am also very privileged to have, and we'll introduce them separately, but our president, our vice president, and which I knew about joining us today, but I didn't know about what our founding president, that he would be on as well, Robert Sakata. So great to be in company of lots of produce enthusiasts. So thank you so much. I am just going to go a little bit of history here. And is the screen looking good and you can all see it? Okay, perfect. So unlike some of the organizations, commodity organizations, we are relatively young. And I was not on board at this time, but I understand during 2012 and 13, there were some roundtable discussions of, interestingly, on labor shortage. We haven't solved that problem, but that's kind of how the organization started to get together and discuss issues of common concern. And then by 2014, it was kind of like, we need to form an association here. And so that's what happened. The first meeting or annual conference, it wasn't annual then, it was the first one, was held in, I believe it was February of 2015. And a board was seated, and the executive director, being me, was then hired later that year. Robert Sakata was elected by the board to serve as president at that meeting, and he did that through 2021. Then we had in addition to our annual conference, we have had now three labor conferences to focus on labor, the very issue that first brought us together. After Robert left to join another committee that he felt he couldn't serve both of them adequately. Bruce Talbot from Palisade, he's a peach grower, was elected president. He served for 2 years. During his tenure, we engaged with legislatively and hired a lobbyist because a law known at that time as SB 2187, now known as ALRA, the Ag Labor Rights and Responsibilities Act, came to the legislature, and we needed to engage quickly and begin to start to talk to legislators and then later to rule makers about this law that was made up big changes and not for the better for the most part for our industry. So that was also is what launched us into the lobbying space. Then in 2013, Roger Mix was elected president. He served for a year. And then this past year, Chuck Hannigan, or not past year, it was actually in February, Chuck Hannigan, who had been on the board for several years, became president. So that's just a very quick rundown of our timeline. We do have 5 pillar committees. I mention them particularly because they kind of really outline our priorities, and those priorities that were set forth in those first set of bylaws when we were established in 2014. And those are business development, so anything that helps farmers develop their business and sell more produce. Food safety, with the Food Safety Modernization Act passed by the federal government in, I believe it was 2013. It's been, I believe, about a decade now. We needed to be able to communicate that, educate growers about what that was all about and how to comply with that law and how to produce really good, safe food. Labor, we've already mentioned that several times, was a huge issue. That's a third committee. Our fourth committee is nutrition and health, and our fifth is the water committee.
Carolyn, I apologize. Are you changing your slides? Because we see your cover slide.
Oh,
So I'm
isn't that
sorry.
interesting? Okay, well, I'm glad you brought it up because I don't
Oh,
know why it's
beautiful.
not in
Yep.
bed.
5.
Okay.
Now we see 5. Beautiful. Thank you so
Okay.
much. I'm sorry.
I didn't realize that I had to change it on the other screen. My apologies. Okay. And let me, okay. So this is the one I want to be on now. A little bit about us. You can certainly learn more at coloradoproduce.org. We have a fairly robust website looking to have some updates made this summer. Also would invite anyone that wants to engage with us on any level, whether, produce buyers to allied industries that sell products and services to produce growers and growers, of course, themselves, to join us at our 2025 conference, February 18th and 19th in Westminster. We also have a deal for brand new grower members. If they go onto the website and they join and fill out the form, and when they come to the payment page, if they hit first dash timer and then apply that code, they get a free first year. We just think if they get engaged with us, they just won't be able to leave. And so we'll hook them in. No, really, we just want as many as possible to join and be part of CFVGA. And then I just list some of the places that you will see us throughout the year, events that we do, and would love to see anyone on this call or watching this webinar later. Look us up at these places. We are doing everything we can to support Colorado produce growers. I mentioned the state advocacy. We also partner with Western growers. It's largely a California growers association, but they also have chapters in Utah, I believe, and Arizona and New Mexico. And they have partnered with us as well. And all of our grower members get a free Western Growers membership. So we also think that communication is really important. We do a weekly newsletter by email. We do food safety trainings. We have other educational resources. We provide networking opportunities, particularly at our annual conference. We bring in buyers and we do a grower buyer networking session to let those folks make connections and hopefully do some business. And then finally, we do produce promotion through our social channels for consumers predominantly is that channel for promotion. These are just some of the photos that we've posted and promoted on there. So I like to close with some statistics that our first president, Robert Sakata, always used to just tell folks how important it is that we join together. And these actually statistics are from 2017. Unfortunately, these numbers would be even lower if I were able to had gone in and gotten the 22 Census of Ag data. But we had about 2 million farms nationwide, farms and ranches throughout our nation. And the ones within that were produce operations were less than 200,000. So that means that first of all, farmers are a small percentage of the population, but the produce operations are even smaller, less than 1% of all those farms in the United States. So we just feel at CFVGA that it's super important that we um, stay together and really unite for a common purpose. So I think I was talking about this slide. Yes, I was, but it was not showing. Okay. And pretty much that's what I've got for you guys. If you've got questions, be glad to answer those, and I will stop sharing my screen.
That was great. I learned a lot. I didn't know a whole lot about CFVGA, so thank you for that history. I've attended your conferences, which have been great, but I appreciate the history of it. Does anybody have any questions? Feel free to put them in the chat or just raise your hand and ask them. Either way. I was curious, can anyone join one of the committees, or must you be a member of CFVGA, or how does the committee membership or participation work?
We would like you to be a member. I guess
Okay.
that's kind of that first tier. And then if you want to take that additional step to be in a leadership or advisory position, we'd love to have committee members for any of those areas that folks are interested in contributing to. And for folks that may not be wanting to serve on a committee, but they just have a suggestion for a committee, we always would love to have that input as well.
Excellent. And then what social media channels are you guys using?
Well, we started off with Facebook.
Okay.
Even before I joined, we were part of that. And then we added an I can't remember what years of maybe about
Oh,
6 years ago, we added Instagram because we wanted to target sort of that millennial and younger
mhm.
group. Um, Somewhat kicking and dragging 2 years ago, we added TikTok. Maryland kicking and dragging was drugged to TikTok because it's what so many people are looking, and especially younger people. We also have a LinkedIn channel for more of a business to business type of topics, and then we also have a YouTube channel.
Oh, great. Well, that covers that. That's great. It's kind of the whole gamut of generations, doesn't it?
Yes, yes.
Excellent. And what should we look forward to the rest of this year, but then 2025? What's your plans and outlook?
Well, I think, and I'll let my president and vice president talk more about this, but certainly labor continues to be a huge thing. And whether, it's educating the public, Colorado has changed dramatically. When I was, tells you probably age more than anything, but when I was a kid, there were about 2 million people in Colorado
Mhm.
and about a million in the city or the Front Range area and a million in the rural areas. And today I think we're bumping up against 6 million, and we
Wow.
still have 1 million or fewer in the rural areas, and
Right.
everybody else is in that Front Range.
Yeah.
So, there's a huge education, just what Colorado and ag is about. And so we're certainly looking at, trying the best ways to do that and talk to our legislators and say, hey, don't be making these laws without talking to the
Mhm.
people they're really going to impact. And so we're doing that. We continue to promote produce. We continue to do the grower buyer networking session to get folks together with potentially new buyers. And then 2 weekends ago, I was in Palm Springs, California. I know, tough go, but we had gotten a grant through Colorado Department of Ag with the
Mhm.
specialty crop block grant to be able to go and talk to a wider range of
Good.
buyers than we would have at our own event, and to talk to them about some of the values and the availability of Colorado produce. Just, sometimes we can fill a niche that
Mhm.
another state can't. So we're really trying to promote produce beyond our borders as well as to Coloradans.
Well, that's great. Well, thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions before we move on to Joe? Well, wonderful. Well, we are excited to have the vice president of the Colorado Fruit and Vegetable Growers Association, Joe Petrocco. And Joe has farmed his entire life, but only with a full-time salary since the beginning of 1996. I guess before it was a part-time salary, but full-time work, right, Joe?
Well, yeah, worked on the farm my whole life, so.
That's awesome. Petrocco Farms was started by his Italian immigrant great grandmother and continues to be worked by multiple generations as they raise a wide variety of vegetables, both organic and conventional. Joe started the farm's organic production. He has a bachelor's degree in botany and a minor in Spanish from Metro State College. And Petrocco Farms has hosted many consumers and members of the news media to its operation. Joe has been a member of CFVGA's Labor Committee since its inception and became chair of the committee several years ago. He has also served on the American Pride Co-op Board of Directors. And Joe is married and has 4 children, 2 of which are in college and 1 in high school and 1 in junior high. I imagine they keep you busy for sure. But welcome and thank you for joining us. Can you tell us more about your farming background and your current, what do you do on your farm, what you're growing?
Yeah, sure. My farming background, I've always raised mixed vegetables, um, irrigated crops. I was also on the Colorado Onion Association board, and there used to be a lot of onions grown in the Front Range and on the western slope. Um, Not really as much as there used to be, but there's still some. Onions, I love to grow onions, but we always grew lettuce and leafy greens. Now we're doing, as we've gotten larger throughout the years and as we've moved north, um, we've included also sweet corn and green beans. And cabbage. We've always done cabbage too. Ever since our inception back in the early 1900s, we've done also cabbage. You
Awesome.
know, the state of the industry is tough these days, like Marilyn had mentioned, and Chuck. I'm sure he's going to elaborate on that a little bit. But I think what we try to do too is be a little positive about the situation. Cost of production has gone out of the control, but machines are making quite a difference, and I think you're going to see machines and AI make a bigger difference in the future. And I think that for that reason, I think you're always going to see a supply of vegetable crops in Colorado. I think it's a bright future there. And I have a slideshow, but I don't know how to present it.
That's okay. You can go down to the bottom of the screen. I'm going to make you a co-host.
What do you do? Do you do?
You can go to the bottom of the screen and click share screen and then choose which one it'll come up and you can choose which one you'd like to share.
Oh, well, thank you guys. Is it share notes?
It's right down
No.
at the bottom. It should be kind of a greenish screen. It just says share screen. It's a little box with an arrow pointing up.
Let me go back to you here. Thank you guys for your patience here. This is the first time I've ever done this. So, okay, here we go. Darn it, I don't
You
know.
click on the screen you want to share, and then
I don't see
in the lower
my,
right-hand corner,
well,
okay, or something.
I don't see my PowerPoint here.
You can email it to me, sir, and I'll be happy to pull it up for you.
Oh, that's okay, guys. I think that we could just move on probably from that. It's just a few slides about, well, some new robots and stuff that are out there. And let me see if I can just email it to you.
Yeah.
Share. What is your email again?
Barb.how
R.how
at state.co.us.
state.co.us. Is it R.how? Yes.
It's Barb, B-A-R-B .how, H-O-W-E.
Oh, bar. Darn it. I'm sorry. Could you say that again?
You bet. Barb, B-A-R-B
Okay.
.how, H-O-W-E at state.co.us.
Oh, is it barb.how.state or
Yes.
barb at? I'm sorry.
Yep, that's okay.
Oh, guys, I am just been so busy. You wouldn't believe it. And I scrambled at the last minute to put these
That's
darn
okay.
together. So, machines have made it easy. And, there's banks out there that are willing to lend to us too. So the future is looking bright. I think and there's banks and there's loans out there that are also willing to loan to young farmers. And I think it's really going to turn around because we've got an advantage to be fresh here. There's a fresh market advantage and here to the Denver metro area and points south and east because of the freight advantage that we have here.
Mhm.
So we're not going through any mountains, and if we produce even seasonally here, we can still put a pretty good product out there on the market, good enough to where we're sought after and that we create a demand. And I think we can continue to do that for produce vegetables here in Colorado in the future if we learn how to mechanize. AI has presented a lot of new features that can be mounted on implements, and those things are really making a difference on the and so forth. And it might not be that big farm because I do have on the slides 2 reports that have come out of California in the deserts southwest of bigger farms that are, such as mine would in the state of Colorado, our family farm be considered a bigger family farm. The smaller farms are just as, if not more profitable for the owners. So people are reverting back to a smaller farm experience, business, and they're actually becoming more profitable because it's just become so expensive to be in business anymore with that many hands. And there you go. So the first slide, thank you for that. That there's one about the markets that proves that robots in the future will be dominating in far into the future. As you can see, kind of where we're at now, they're kind of looking to triple. So you'll see, all of us will have some kind of robotics on the farm replacing hands. Now the reason for that, guys, is because Mexico is so cheap. I mean, it's not so cheap anymore. It really isn't, but it's cheaper than where we're at. And the more laws, labor laws that we pass, people need jobs. Of course they do. They need higher wages, but the more laws that we pass here, unfortunately, give countries like Mexico and even other states what's called a comparative advantage. But we're working through that because look at this machine. Go to the next slide. Yeah, well, there's some slides that I took about how proving the point that H2A farmers, the bigger farms are going away. The smaller farm type of thing, farmers markets, we can make money. Selling seasonally and getting it down to a few items and keeping our fresh advantage, that we can do that and we can make some money. So we're excited for the future here, even though we have reports like this coming out where we're decreasing. Me personally, I'm a little optimistic about the future. So what's the next slide? There's just a couple pictures I just snapped about 20 minutes ago where I was at, just to prove where I was at, so why I was late. But we are cutting some organic lettuce there. First lettuce of the season. Go to the next one right there. And that's another thing that we have an advantage here too, is thanks to Colorado Proud and you guys, the great efforts that you've done throughout the years have made this opportunity for us, what you're seeing right here. People want a local organic product too. So we're doing a little bit of that. And even if it's not organic, if it's local, it's fresher, you're not burning all that diesel and carbon to get it here from halfway across the planet at times. And it's just a fresher product. It's just so good to eat. One of those heads right out of the field. I just ate one. I have to eat one. It's a romaine heart. It's just so delicious when you eat it right there. Of course, I don't eat it in the rows. I take it out of the field and then I eat it. So, but yeah, thank you guys for that. And if you have any questions, just let me know. And again, going back to the thing about being smaller, Chuck has really made an effort to do that smaller farmer thing and focus on that and recruit people into the organization. It's been great. Our numbers have actually gone up, if I'm not mistaken, right, Chuck?
I believe they have, and we're getting a lot more interest.
But if anybody has any questions, let me know and I'd be happy to answer them. That's about all I had for today. But I did learn Spanish, back in the day. I have a degree in botany and one in Spanish. I did work through when I was in college, Poland Rose back. That was before satellite rows, so I could do them straight. So I was working, putting my, self through college in a way. And I happened to learn Spanish because I've grown up in the field. Of course, I worked with the Hispanic labor, and those were the immigrants at the time. Not unlike when my family immigrated here from Italy. We were the immigrants at the time, but not at my time. It was the Hispanic speaking people. So I got a degree in Spanish, and I really started speaking Spanish after that because it's more formal. We're at Metro State, and there's a great program there, and I loved it. And but now I'm thinking as we go more to robotics, I'm gonna have to be trained to speak to the Terminator or the machines or whatever that's coming down the road instead of.
That's true. That's true. It makes sense. I mean, everything's getting automated, isn't it? What area of farming is implementing the robots? Like, is it the planting, the harvesting? I'm just curious. What is it? All of it?
It's all of it. It's
Okay.
planting, it's harvesting. That one unit that you saw briefly on that back of that smaller tractor, that's a more affordable AI unit that's out now. Learns as it goes along. And it treats different, you see different tanks on it, so it treats vegetables in different manners as it moves along, and it knows what it's doing. So it's just replacing huge amounts of people
Yeah.
there. But the planting, they have automatic transplanters, and now they have automatic harvesters. So you harvest, we do automatic harvest our green beans. Or they do take a lot of hand labor in the shed sorting the bulk green beans that come from the machines.
Interesting. And do you?
I was just gonna mention too, Barb, that
Mhm.
CFEGA has held now two automatic weeder demos, one in Rocky Ford last year and one on the Western Slope this year, just to bring some of that technology. And we've really been cognizant of, the big, bringing that big machine that maybe costs $1 million to the
Yeah.
smaller technology that's still a technology, but is maybe more affordable and everything in between. So growers can actually go and see how it works and kick the tires and talk to the folks that are doing that. So I just wanted to throw that in because we have started with the weeders. I don't
Mhm.
know. I think that's like maybe the starting point for some of this technology, but
Now that makes a lot of sense. And that's going to be the thing, right? Is kind of lowering that barrier to entry for a lot of farmers is how do they get this equipment? And do you guys work with universities on just continually advancing, whether it's the methods of what you're using in terms of farming or even developing of different machineries? Do you guys work with universities or even companies to have some voice in what they're developing?
Well, you betcha. We've even had machinery at our annual meeting and even the labor conference meetings. We have a machinery side of the show where people can see some of the new machines. And then, like Marilyn had mentioned, that those field days, you could see the machines actually working. So
Yeah.
you betcha we're doing that.
I think
At
it's
our
definitely.
This is Chuck. At our last field day we had, it was in Fruta just a couple of weeks ago, and we actually had the demonstrated weeders there. But there are also several supply companies.
Mhm.
Keithley Williams, their implement division was there to see what we had, what we were bringing in, and we had an interaction with them, some of our members and area producers in that area to see what areas they'd like to see and what they'd like to see us bring in on a small scale and maybe make available to the CSU research farm there, so that we can bring technology that's coming out of Europe. There was a weeder from Switzerland, but a lot of it comes from France and Italy, and so we're able to, through that interaction, get little pieces and economically bring them to where our producers, our members can kind of see them.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, we have Adrian Card, and Adrian Card, he's a founding member of this CFEGA
Hmm.
for us. He's the state manager of the extension agent now. So he finds all these machines and with from CSU, obviously, and finds all these things and puts them together and does a great job there. So you betcha this university helps. And like Chuck said, the allied industry has really stepped up to help us find these things too. And they're like Keithley Williams and other seed companies are helping us find these machines. They have an interest. I
Yeah.
mean, so many other industries depend on agriculture besides just where the food comes from, guys. You
Right.
wouldn't believe how many other people around in the communities and that are at the soccer field or whatever they're doing are connected to agriculture in some way, some sort of way. So it's an important thing to keep it going.
Very important. Well, do we have any questions for Joe? Well, great. Joe, thank you so much. I know you're busy, but it was a pleasure to see your pictures and to learn more about this. Well, let's move on to Chuck. And Chuck Hannigan is the president of the Colorado Fruit and Vegetable Growers Association. And he was born and raised on a family farm in the Arkansas Valley. And Chuck has worked for the U.S. Department of Agriculture Farm Service Agency in Colorado for 34 years and participated in developing the National USDA implementation policy for the 2014 and 2018 farm bills. Chuck has also been active in the farm operation and vegetable marketing until 2019 when he left USDA and began farming full time. He was involved during the establishment of the Rocky Ford Growers Association and wrote the GAP plan for Hannigan Farms, as well as assisting other area farms in establishing GAP plans. Chuck continues to work with his brother and father in expanding markets and working towards opportunities in agriculture for families' future generations. Well, Chuck, welcome and really appreciate you joining us. Can you tell us more about your GAP plan and maybe for people that don't know what that is, just kind of a brief explanation?
Well, we hate to try to even think back and remember, but there was an episode with good practices that caused the food safety crisis with the Rocky Ford cantaloupe some years ago. Even though it was outside of an area which the Rocky Ford is actually produced, but at that point in time, it was kind of and you still see recalls for salmonella, listeria, things like that. And some types of produce are at higher risk than others and things. But we stepped forward and wanted to make sure that we had to make a decision whether to try to resurrect our brand, the Rocky Ford cantaloupe, which had been around over 100 years, or disassociate and try to go a different direction. And we chose that our goal was to gather together as farmers and producers of that melon and make it what we would consider probably the safest choice on the grocery shelf. It's the part of, and it's gone way beyond what we ever imagined when that started, more than 10 years ago. And the worldwide plans, the food safety is just has gone accelerated and got more and more of an emphasis. And Marilyn was talking about some of the things we offer. And that's one of the things we offer to our producers or our members is we work, and you mentioned cooperative extension or the universities. We probably could not do, I know we couldn't do what we do without them. They're an educational resource. They put on, we're able to put on affordable and very convenient, I guess, trainings for all of our producers. If you're going to want to link up and sell your product to any type of retail market, grocery stores, or if you're a big grower trying to get your produce through a shed that remarkets into any of the big grocery stores, you're going to have to follow those simple rules and regulations. And they're good for the industry, they're good for the people, and they're good for us as producers. So those are the kind of plans. They were kind of overwhelming when we first started. And a lot of my producers that I have around here, a lot of them are small. They're elderly. And it was kind of a overwhelming process when they first got into it. But we were able to work with them and get them in compliance and keep them that way. And that way, when you pick up a Rocky Ford cantaloupe, it's probably one of the safest melons in the world to consume.
That's really cool. Yeah, I think it's been a learning curve, hasn't it? When a lot of things happened that prompted the Food Safety Modernization Act, and it did change a lot of industries. And we can always
Well,
do the best that we can. So
that's right. It's, the produce and farming, it's all changing, kind of like Joe said, with mechanization.
mhm.
Our organization, when we first started, we've changed. We've gone from really wanting to emphasize marketing and putting growers and buyers together and things like that. And now I guess we're reacting to needs of our members. And that's the one thing that I wanted to emphasize, that I think fruit and vegetable growers has done a wonderful job. We've got, well, Robert Cicada, who's on. I want to make sure he leave time for him to speak. He's him, Mike Bartello, some of our original founders. They did a great job in organizing something that is a true resource for all producers. And the one thing that, and Joe mentioned it, is I'm hoping that we can get more word out. I'm trying to get hold of the fruit and vegetable growers that market at these farmers markets. They don't bring a semi to the curb. They bring their half-ton pickup, rounded up with what they picked the previous 2 days. They may have a CSA going on as part of their organization. They may be diversified in a lot of things, but they're only farming 5 acres or 10 acres or 20. And they're just as important as all the big packers in the long-term success of Colorado agriculture. So we need to make sure we cover those, and we're there for them, and responsive to their needs also.
That makes a lot of sense. With that, I'd like to know, what do you think the future of agriculture looks like for Colorado? But I think it's changing a lot, isn't it?
It's not my dad's farm anymore,
That's right.
or my granddad's. We're just a little bit ago, my brother drove by in a pickup, and he and I are 6th generation, and his kids were in there, and they're 7th generation. So, things are changing. The economics. Marilyn talked about labor being a big issue on all of our surveys. Water is another issue.
Yep.
We come from an area that's a prime supply source for the Front Range, and that's a concern. And we've got to figure out and work with producers and consumers, municipalities on the Front Range, to figure out how we can make this thing work. We can't lose agriculture, but we also have to take care of these communities. We all live in Colorado, and
Mhm.
and don't tell anybody outside of the area how great it is here. We've got to deal with who's here right now. But we've all got a seat at this table, and we've got to be put in together and make it work. And that's one thing. Marilyn mentioned that Robert was on to some other deals, and he's involved in the water issues in the state of Colorado, and we're fortunate to have him at that helm to kind of to represent agriculture in the questions and the rough decisions that are going to have to be made in the future.
Exactly. And I guess, out of curiosity, how are you seeing it, but even Joe, Marilyn, and all of CFVGA addressing the age of the average farmer and rancher, right? I mean, how do we attract young people? I guess, how are you guys helping address that? And maybe what are some things that we should all be thinking about?
Well,
go ahead, Joe.
One thing is to kind of keep it fun. I think if you keep it fun and hopefully somehow make it rewarding in a way, you can attract those younger folks back to the farm.
It's a good point. Yeah. Keep them interested, huh? And
one of
maybe with
the
the
one of the
technology, they will be interested, right? The young people, they like the technology. So that maybe that's a
that
way.
If the
that's just where
technology
I was
helps
going.
put a little money in your pocket, then you're even better because
Hmm.
it's important. I mean, we got college to pay for the next generation. We got bills and same mortgages. So you guys pay, we pay, and
Yep.
if we can't pay that mortgage, then we got to do something different. So technology and making money and having fun. That sounds good.
Yeah.
We talked about the robotics and the weeding and the other aspects of agriculture. The door is wide open, and that's one thing that Colorado Fruit and Vegetables has talked about is working with the community colleges and the universities in order to get those guys. I mean, as we implement these machines and as we develop them, we're fortunate here in the Arkansas Valley to have a local company that is actually um, manufacturing and demoing and developing and doing a lot of research. They are always showing up on our farm with robots. But as we start putting more and more of these into production, these universities and community colleges, that's going to be a huge advantage to kids that can go through those programs. And you know, it driving an old tractor might not pay as much as computing that robot on a laptop from an air conditioned pickup. So, you know, we got to that's going to be a way of the future, and hopefully we can be ahead of it because, like I said, some of our founding and our board members and our advisory board members, they're really looking at working with those universities, those educational groups to get those programs up and running.
That makes a lot of sense. Does your farm offer internships to ag students?
We'll work anybody. um,
Good
we
point.
we
Good
don't
point.
we don't have a formal internship, but we do actually have like we've got the research facility here in Rocky Ford. So we do have a lot of students that'll kind of come out and work through a week. We work with some of the high schools around. They're always wanting some of the foreign exchange students to have an educational agricultural experience. And so we've been fortunate. We've got two generations on the farm that were part of the Colorado Ag Leadership, the CALP programs. So we're a stop on the educational agricultural tour circuit in the Arkansas Valley, and we like it.
Well, that's important. How about you, Joe? Does your farm offer internships for students?
You know, we did that once upon a time and we got just too overwhelmed with it.
Yeah.
We had so many responses, but we still make exceptions for that younger generation of ours and our employees' kids. So if they have a teenager or someone in college who's wanting to get experience, we put them to work. And if they're, you know, if they've got someone in their family, we limit it kind of to ourselves, us Petracos, and then employees have kids or whatever that age, we take those too. So
Good. I think it's important.
it's better than the screen that
Yes,
to
sir.
whatever.
And we have to, like you mentioned, somehow we have to encourage young people to come either stay with the family farm or come into farming or even want to be a part of it, whether it's through developing technology to help farming, but we have to somehow attract them. It's not always easy. Well, awesome. I have learned so much and I want to thank you guys. Robert, would you like to say anything since you've joined us?
Thanks, Barb. It's just amazing the leadership that we have at the Colorado Fruit and Vegetable Growers Association. Thanks to Chuck and Joe. They do an amazing job. They are so busy on their farms and really appreciate it. It does take a lot of time to be a part of those organizations, but it's so important and so critical that, as Marilyn said, that I think that we need to be working together to really achieve the goals and overcome the challenges that we face. So Thanks, you guys. Thanks for all the work you do.
Thank
Well,
you,
thank
Robert.
for that.
Thanks, Robert.
Well, it's been a great learning experience for me. I'm a Colorado native, but I don't know anything really about farming. So it's been a great learning experience for me to come and attend your annual conference, and even listening here today has been fantastic. Would any of you like to say some last words to our Colorado Proud members about the future of CFVGA or some exciting things we can look forward to in your 2025 annual conference?
Yes, that would kind of be me. And I will say that our conference committee started meeting shortly after the 24 conference was over in February. And we're planning some great sessions, and we'll certainly be looking at some robotic stuff. I know we will be looking at a presentation from a gal who works on gut health issues and the importance of local produce to that whole equation, and just a lot of great sessions that we typically have. 4 breakout sessions, 3 choices each. So right there's 12 plus the plenary sessions, plus the grower buyer networking. So there's just a lot of great content for established and brand new growers and everything in between. And I think we're going to be able to offer some beginning farmer scholarships to our conference this year. So check our website for that too.
But that would be great. Get
Yeah.
some, get some help out there for folks to be able to attend. It is a great event.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, I want to thank all of you. I know your time is so important, especially what, you're out in the field, you're doing all of this great work. So thank you for that. And thank you for joining us. And Colorado Proud members, our July webinar will be on the Colorado's co-manufacturing and co-packing industry. So hopefully you can join us for that. I want to thank you all again and hope you have a wonderful day.